The IDF announced the tragic news of 6 soldiers killed in battle in South Lebanon. Funerals for the fallen are being held throughout the day. The fallen were identified as Captain Itai Markovich, 22, from Kochav Yair; Staff Sergeant Sraya Elboim, 21, from Mechola; Staff Sergeant Dror Chen, 20, from Gan Chaim; Staff Sergeant Nir Gofer, 20, from Dimona; Sergeant Shalev Yitzchak Sagron, 21, from Sderot; Sergeant Yoav Daniel, 19, from Nahariya. May they all be of blessed memory. Hezbollah's attacks on northern Israel since October 2023 have resulted in the deaths of 43 civilians. 42 IDF soldiers and reservists have been killed in that same period, fighting inside Lebanon and protecting the border. Meanwhile, Hezbollah rockets and UAVs continue targeting north and central Israel today. Air defense shot down Hezbollah UAVs after they crossed into northern Israel from Lebanon. The Israeli army said a barrage of 20 rockets was partly intercepted by air defense systems, and some impact was identified on the ground. A house in Ma'alot Tarshish, a town in northern Israel, was hit. During the attack, no casualties were reported. 5 projectiles were fired toward Tel Aviv and central Israel. Some 2 million Israelis were forced to shelter until the incoming rockets were tracked and shot down. The rockets were shot down, and there were no reports of injuries or damages. 1 rocket was launched from the Gaza Strip, but did not cross into Israeli territory. An alert was triggered at Kibbutz Nir Am, near the border. The IDF is expanding its ground operation in South Lebanon and has reached new targets deeper across the border. Strikes were reported today in Beirut after the army issued evacuation orders in the Hezbollah stronghold of the Dahya. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz reports.
Israeli fighter jets continue to pound Hezbollah targets in the southern suburbs of Beirut after issuing evacuation warnings for 6 buildings in the area. Black smoke is reported covering the skies of the Lebanese capital. Overnight, Israeli fighter jets struck Hezbollah weapons depots and command centers in Beirut's southern suburbs. The Hezbollah sites were located in the heart of civilian population. The Air Force destroyed dozens of rocket launchers in Lebanon, including those used in the deadly attack on Nahariya this week and those that targeted central Israel. Forces from the 91st Division and the 36th Division advanced into areas of South Lebanon for the first time, attacking Hezbollah gunmen along the way. Several Hezbollah field commanders were killed in the fighting. There were also heavy Israeli casualties. The expanding operations come amid diplomatic efforts to achieve a ceasefire, but also increasing Hezbollah rocket and UAV attacks on northern and even central Israel. Defense Minister Israel Katz appeared to set a new goal in the war, saying that Israel would not agree to any ceasefire in Lebanon that does not ensure that Hezbollah is disarmed.
אנחנו לא נעשה שום הפסקות אש ולא נעצור ולא נוריד את הרגל מהדוושה ולא נאפשר שום הסדרה שהיא לא תכלול את השגת יעדי המלחמה, שזה פירוק החיזבאללה מנשקו, זה השגתו מעבר לליטני ובעיקר יצירת התנאים האמיתיים לחזרת תושבי הצפון לביתם בביטחון.
And joining me now is Shiri Fein-Grossman, member of Forum Dvorah, former head of the Foreign Policy Branch of Regional Affairs in the National Security Council. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Sivan. Thanks for having me.
Shiri, the fighting in Lebanon continues with Nasrallah wiped out, but Hezbollah still armed and actively engaged. What key objectives must be achieved before this conflict can end, allowing the northern residents of Israel to safely return to their homes?
Well, Sivan, the main thing is just to get as many operatives killed as much as possible and take away as many rockets as we can before we are stopped by a ceasefire. And the main thing is to achieve is the day after, the ability, the freedom to act when needed, when we see a credible threat or when we see rearmament of Hezbollah. Is the ability to take care of our own security for the first time, to make this the last Lebanon-Israel war.
What are the realistic chances of a ceasefire being reached in the coming weeks, in your opinion? And if one is agreed upon, can it truly be trusted?
I think it's very reasonable. Trump's being elected in the U.S. has a great sway over Iran and its policy, and they're the one basically now calling the shots. And I think enough pressure. It's a matter of balance. You don't want to go too harshly against Hezbollah, so he has no reason to get to some sort of negotiations. But in the meantime, you don't want to keep it too strong to be able to hit Israel in a surprise attack. But I definitely think there is a reasonable opportunity on the table to reach a ceasefire in the coming weeks.
And do you think such a ceasefire can be trusted?
Again, it's a matter of will we have, and I think that's what's stalling getting to a ceasefire now is the Israeli freedom to act whenever it sees a threat or Hezbollah arming up, transferring of weapons, our ability to attack any transfer of weapons in the region to Lebanon into the hands of Hezbollah to stop his growing back to influence and power. Is the main criteria that needs to be achieved here. It's not a matter of just what we will gain until after. The main thing is what will happen the day after. Will Israel be able to maintain its own security for the first time?
Israel's new defense minister, Israel Katz, mentioned disarming Hezbollah as a potential goal. Do you think this was something he said without thinking, or could it be a serious war objective? And if so, how feasible is that?
Yeah, Israel Katz is the new Minister of Defense, and look, I'm not so sure. I think if I have to read anything to it, there's a lot of objections with people that are in the northern border, that on the 2-kilometer radius from the Lebanon border, saying, "Hey, we don't want another war. We've been taking such great damage for such a long time. We're already out of our homes. Please take this advantage and destroy Hezbollah as much as possible." And I guess it's tempting to think that we can go all the way and bring Hezbollah down to his knees and to make him disappear. I think, anything is possible. It's just a matter of the price. And having so many wars, so many fronts that Israel is fighting is kind of running out of its strength and its power. So we have to be smart. We have to be focused. People are in reserve duty for a long time. Families are out of their homes, and it's a real question. How much more can the IDF go on like this with a major escalation both in Gaza and in Lebanon, and drones and rockets coming out from the east, whether it's Iraq or Yemen or through the west. So it's a lot to take on a society and an economy, and this is really the challenge that the Israeli government has to balance.
And turning to President-elect Trump, as someone with deep expertise in Middle Eastern diplomacy, do you believe his presidency could create new opportunities for normalization between Israel and the Arab countries around?
I think it's the greatest opportunity we will see in our lifetime, perhaps. But it really depends on how much the Trump administration is willing to not just deter Iran, but to really cause substantial damage to the Revolutionary Guards forces, to Iran's army, to Iran's air force. Will it be willing to go alongside Israel and destroy their nuclear program, or prevent it or go disable it for a few years? If that could be achieved, that will signal to Saudi Arabia that America is willing to use force to deter Iran, to support its allies in the region, and to create a new reality in the Middle East. Without that, it will be very hard to bring Saudi Arabia to the table, and that's without talking about the Palestinian issue, the two-state solution that Saudi Arabia is still hoping to achieve.
Shiri Fine-Grossman, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sivan.
President Biden raised the issue of the American hostages in Gaza in his White House meeting with President-elect Trump. The topic was raised as the president and the president-elect held a meeting meant to pave the way for a smooth transition. This after a heated presidential campaign with Trump defeating Biden's Vice President, Kamala Harris. More from ILTV, Steve Leibowitz.
President Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, said that the president told President-elect Trump that his administration is prepared to fully collaborate in order to secure the hostage deal as quickly as possible. The families of the American hostages held by Hamas in Gaza urged the collaboration when they met Biden this week in the White House.
This is a topic, obviously, the American hostages being held in Gaza that President Biden and President Trump covered today. But we have not had the opportunity to engage with the incoming team yet. I'm only expressing, standing here today, as I did to the hostage families yesterday, we are very much willing to do so. And we've sent a signal to the incoming team that we're prepared to work with them on this issue, as with every other issue.
Biden reportedly told the hostage families that his administration will use every day it has left in office until January 20th in order to return the hostages to their loved ones. The mediation efforts to reach the hostage for ceasefire deal are currently stalled, and 101 Israeli hostages remain in captivity for 405 days. Sullivan said that constructive talks were held with visiting Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer. The two discussed means of boosting the amount of humanitarian aid reaching Gazan civilians, as well as efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon. Sullivan says that the U.S. secured commitments from Israel regarding additional steps to increase Gaza aid and will be watching closely to ensure follow-through. For now, the U.S. threat of conditioning arms sales to Israel is off the table.
At the United Nations headquarters in New York, Israel's UN ambassador Dani Danon welcomed the nomination of Mike Huckabee as the next U.S. ambassador to Israel. The former Arkansas governor, known as a pro-Israel advocate, was tapped by President-elect Donald Trump, signaling a potentially significant shift in U.S. policy toward the Middle East. The nomination has drawn praise from Israeli officials while raising concerns among Palestinians due to Huckabee's strong support for Jewish settlements and criticism of Palestinian leadership. Here's what Danon had to say.
I want to congratulate my dear friend, Governor Mike Huckabee. I think he will be a great ambassador to Israel. He's very familiar with the facts on the ground. I think he visited Israel dozens of times. He had like a yearly visit to Israel, and I had the honor to escort him. Also, after October 7th, he came, and I took him to visit the sites on Kfar Aza, Beirut, and other locations where the massacre took place. So we will welcome him, and we will be expecting his arrival.
Now I'm thrilled to invite you to the next ILTV community webinar. This is a chance for our paid subscribers to connect directly with our executive editor, Mayan Hoffman, and dive into the questions you care most about regarding Israel. The webinar will take place next week on Tuesday, November 19th, and is exclusively for our app subscribers. If you're already part of the ILTV family, watch your inbox for our registration link. Not a subscriber yet? Join our strong pro-Israel community and participate in a live webinar next week. Last night, a Navy missile boat intercepted a UAV launched from the east that was targeting Eilat. Ahead of the latest naval action, the IDF has now, for the first time, revealed a series of naval operations carried out in the war in Lebanon. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
The IDF announced that a missile boat in the Red Sea was responsible for shooting down the enemy drone last night that was approaching Eilat from the east. Earlier, the IDF revealed that the Navy has had a prominent role in blowing up Hezbollah installations and targeting its commanders and other missions in the ongoing war in Lebanon. One of the commanders killed by the Navy was Ali Barakat from the Hezbollah aerial unit. He was responsible for UAV attacks on Israel. The Navy also killed Ala Naif Ali in the Tripoli area on the Lebanese coast. The Navy was credited with the attack that destroyed Hezbollah's naval headquarters in Beirut, which had dozens of ships and was the location where its units trained for attacks on Israel. The Navy conducted a series of other operations, including hitting sites in Beirut that held rockets with long-range capabilities reaching 100 to 300 kilometers. The Navy has carried out surveillance and struck Hezbollah targets in a number of areas deeper in Lebanon where IDF ground forces have progressed. The Army spokesman said the Navy can travel to any body of water and secretly. It doesn't matter what the mission is, a big advantage in terms of being able to maneuver in secret. The IDF also acknowledged naval surveillance activities, sometimes at a great distance, often far from Israeli shores. The Army spokesman said that 70% of the world is water, and there are both threats and opportunities. The Army confirmed that its naval forces have been traveling near Iran and Yemen during the ongoing war.
ILTV News had the privilege of speaking with Julie Platt, chairman of the Jewish Federations of North America, about her vision for the organization, the central body of the organized Jewish community in North America. In her conversation, Platt touched on a range of topics, including American support for Israel, the importance of finding new allies, and what she described as a surge in Jewish community engagement. Here's a segment from her interview with ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
We speak a lot about this word, the surge. In reaction to October 7th, there are many, many born-again Jews who remembered who they were and remembered their affiliation and remembered their religion and remembered their community. And people are showing up in numbers we haven't had in quite some time. But it's on us, on the Jewish community, to make them feel welcome and to help them find their place and to make them feel a sense of belonging to the Jewish community.
And you can catch the full interview on our YouTube page. Just search for ILTV Israel News. Don't miss this important conversation. Security is on high alert in Paris in light of this evening's Nations League match between France and Israel at the Stade de France. Following the violence directed at Israeli soccer fans in Amsterdam last week, French authorities have deployed 4,000 police officers to secure the event, a measure 3 to 4 times the usual mobilization. The police are meant to patrol the stadium, surrounding areas, and public transport, with French and Israeli flags allowed inside the venue. Despite the heightened security and a show of solidarity from French President Emmanuel Macron meant to attend the game, the turnout is expected to be low. Just 20,000 fans are anticipated in the 80,000 capacity stadium. Surveys suggest many French fans are staying away due to either security concerns or their views over the ongoing Israel-Gaza conflict. Israeli coaches urged supporters to attend, especially members of the local Israeli and Jewish communities, saying their presence would bring joy to the team.
It's a very sad situation not to play in Israel. It's a very sad situation for us. We want to be connected to our people and to play in front of them. I try to concentrate in the things that in my hands. Whatever is not in my hands, I want to prepare my national team to the best possible way of playing against a very strong national team of France the best we can.
Every football player wants to play some of his games at home with full stadiums, of course, but we are thankful also for those who are enough brave, I would say, because I have a lot of friends around Paris who would like to come and visit the game. Part of them cannot, part of them a bit afraid. So yeah, we get big support outside the pitch, and even those little ones who come, I mean, in terms of numbers, for us it's nice to see that we still have the supports on the French soil.
Meanwhile, France's coach Didier Deschamps acknowledged the heavy context of the match and said his team is focused on keeping the event about soccer. France is home to Europe's largest Jewish and Muslim communities, and reports of anti-Semitic acts have surged by nearly 300% this past year.
Dans un monde idéal, le football ne serait que du football. Malheureusement, en 2024 en Europe, un an après le 7 octobre, quelques jours après Amsterdam, eh bien cet événement prend une dimension supplémentaire. C'est devenu un temps d'affirmation républicaine face à l'antisémitisme, et nous avons besoin que les Français montrent leur engagement sur ce sujet.
This match also comes at a time of tense relations between French President Emmanuel Macron and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, adding further layers of significance to the game. French authorities hope to avoid a repeat of Amsterdam's violence, but the atmosphere remains charged surrounding this match. And it's been almost a week since that anti-Semitic violence which erupted in the streets of Amsterdam, where Israeli soccer fans were targeted and attacked. The Dutch police is still arresting pro-Palestinian protesters, defying the protest ban in the Netherlands. ILTV's Devo Klein has more details.
In a 5th consecutive day of arrests, pro-Palestinian rioters are finding themselves in police custody, as per the Dutch ban on protesting. Amsterdam has banned all demonstrations in the Dutch capital after a targeted attack on Israeli soccer fans was carried out in the city. The victims, including women and children, were ambushed by mobs of Dutch immigrants, hailing mostly from North Africa, in a violent lynch that saw 5 hospitalized due to severe injuries. After widespread condemnation by European leaders for the violent attacks on Israelis and Jews, many Dutch residents found the event as an opportunity to defy the law and engage in anti-Israel protesting. Dutch police have removed and detained hundreds of demonstrators since last week's clashes under the new emergency measures that were recently imposed. With European anti-Semitism on the rise, many have expressed outrage, while others welcome the violence with open arms, as seen in social media posts and on the streets of Amsterdam.
And now it's time for our Hebrew word of the week. Each week, along with eTeacher, we learn a new Hebrew word and relate it to the Bible, to current affairs, and to our everyday lives. For more information on the Rosen School of Hebrew, please scan the QR code on your screen. But in the meantime, let's hear this week's word of the week.
Welcome to Hebrew Word of the Week. I'm Mariella, and in this segment, together with eTeacher, we explore the beauty and depth of the Hebrew language. Each week, we learn a new Hebrew word or phrase and discover how it's used in the Bible, current events, and everyday life. Today's Hebrew word is achdut, which means unity. In Hebrew, unity is more than just coming together. It's about creating a sense of harmony and togetherness among individuals or groups. Achdut is a word that holds significant weight in Hebrew culture. It represents the deep bond that exists between people when they work toward a shared goal, despite differences in background, opinion, or perspective. In both ancient and modern contexts, achdut is seen as a source of strength, whether among families, communities, or even nations. Unity plays a key role in the Hebrew Bible, where it is often associated with the success and flourishing of the people of Israel. Today, achdut remains a powerful concept in Israeli society, symbolizing the importance of solidarity, especially in times of challenge and uncertainty. Here are some examples of how the word achdut is used in a sentence. Ha'am shelanu chazak shehu me'ochad. Our people are strong when they are united. Bazman milchama ha'achdut chashuva me'od. During war, unity is very important. So if you're interested in learning more about the Hebrew language, check out eTeacher. This online and live course is the most established Hebrew language instruction institution. You can learn with a time-proven method for every level, or even start from scratch. eTeacher offers dynamic online courses with live video lessons, weekly webinars, and ample support, allowing you to connect to a lively global community for an enriched learning experience. Scan the QR code or click the link below and visit the eTeacher website today to learn more. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Hebrew word achdut. Please join us next week for another episode of Hebrew Word of the Week. In the meantime, I encourage you to explore the concept of achdut in Hebrew culture and reflect on its significance in your own life. Feel free to share your thoughts and experiences with us in the comments below.
Sagot Winery, where passion meets tradition. Nestled in the heart of Binyamin, our vineyards yield exquisite wines, crafted with generations of expertise.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies are expected tonight around the country, alongside cool temperatures reaching lows of 13 degrees Celsius or 56 degrees Fahrenheit. Tomorrow, we should be seeing sunny skies and warm temperatures reaching highs of 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Over the weekend, we'll continue to see cold nights and warm and sunny days here in Israel. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channel, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Sivan Raviv. Be well, be safe, and thank you so much for watching.